So, welcome back to Mind Matters CogSci Talks, the podcast where we explore the fascinating world of cognitive science through conversations with researchers, educators, innovators who are all advancing artificial intelligence and technology. So, today I'm excited to welcome Priya, who is an assistant professor of information technology at Poornima College of Engineering in India. And her work spans artificial intelligence, natural language processing, machine learning, data science, and AI education. So, alongside teaching future engineers, she's also contributed to research, ranging from topics like natural language processing and regression modeling for mental health to cybersecurity and emerging AI technologies. So, through both her research and her mentorship, she's passionate about helping students develop the technical skills and the ethical perspective needed to shape the future of artificial intelligence. So, Priya, thank you so much for joining me today, and it's truly a pleasure to have you on Mind Matter CogSci Talks. So, I guess before we dive really specific into your research, could you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what kind of first sparked your interest in artificial intelligence and information technology? And maybe like in high school or undergrad, was there like a particular experience or moment that made you realize that like this was the path that you wanted to pursue?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for having me there today. I'm really excited to for this conversation. So, a little bit about myself. I am currently working as an assistant professor in the information technology department at Poornima College of Engineering. And alongside teaching, I'm pursuing my PhD from RTU, where my research focus on cybersecurity, machine learning, and NLP. As for what got me into AI and IT in the first place, honestly, it was not one single dramatic moment. Like it was more of a slow pull. I was always someone who liked understanding how things work behind the scene. So programming just naturally caught me attention early on. But I think the real spark happened when I was working on one of my first machine learning project during my studies. Uh, I remember feeding into a bunch of data, and the model started picking up patterns that I had not even noticed myself. And that moment genuinely gave me goosebumps because it felt less like I was just running a program and more like I was working with something that could actually learn and think in its own way. That's moment I knew, okay, this is what I want to spend my time on. And from there, one thing led to another, teaching, research, and eventually diving deeper into AI and cybersecurity, which is where I am today.
Mm, yeah. Just out of curiosity, since you mentioned that like AI or like what you've done, like machine learning and like the model you created, it can kind of like learn and think in their own way. Like I know there's like a question right now of like whether we can train AI to or like large language models to think like humans. So I'm just curious on what are your thoughts on that?
We can train the model using the situational problem. Like we use my research area is, yeah, my recent publication is NLP, right? So I simply define NLP like, and natural language processing is basically the branch of the AI. Okay? So machine understand the human language. Now I can say I don't just mean text. It is mean text. Okay, it's speech to the way we talk, the way we write, even we express things casually with slang or tone. Okay, Th- uh, think about it's in this way. Like computer naturally understand numbers and code really well, right? But we as a human don't communicate in zero and ones. We communicate in our words, sentence, emotions, right? So NLP is the really the bridge. It's what allow a machine to actually make sense. of what we are saying, and even respond in way that feel natural to us. And honestly, that exactly why it has been becoming such a huge deal in AI, because end of the day, if AI can't understand how we naturally speak, it doesn't matter, right? How smart the technology is behind it, it just won't feel useful for humans enough to actually be of use.
Mm.
NLP, basically NLP is what makes AI accessible in the reason we can talk to a chatbot and get a sensible, and we provide the data to the machine. Then we provide the data to machines or chatbot. It will be trained according to the our data, and day by day, when we ask the query to chatbots and use any AI tools, then according to our data, the machine will be trained day by day. So yeah, if the reason we can talk to a chatbot and get a sensible reply, or ask a voice assistant a question, actually get an answer that makes sense. So in a way, NLP is closer to the people instead of keeping it locked away something. Only engineer as something only engineers can understand. Okay.
Yeah. So I saw that one of your recent publications was a survey, like you kind of mentioned, of like natural language processing. So I guess for us, I feel like we interact with NLPs every day through like chatbots, voice assistants, and translation tools. So in your opinion, like recently, what has been the biggest breakthrough in, I guess, natural language processing?
Yeah. Oh, this is a great question, because honestly, uh, the field has moved so fast. It's
Mm.
hard to even keep up something. Sometimes, if I had to pick just one, I'd say the biggest breakthrough has been the rise of language
Mhm.
models. The kind of technology that power to like modern chatbots today, and what really changed the game was something called transformer architecture. I know that sound very technical, right? In simple, I put a simpler NLP model were kind of narrow-minded, like a model built for translation could only do translation, and a model built for detecting sentiments could only do one job. That could really understand context that we do. But with transformer, everything changed. These model can now understand the context more deeply, even across long conversation or paragraph, can they handle multiple tasks at once. So the same model that's chatting with, you can also translate, summarize, answer questions, all of it. That's why voice assistants and chatbots today feel so much more natural compared to say five before 5 6 years ago. Before
Mm.
talking to a chatbot felt robotics, you have to first string in a very specific way for it for you can say for it even understand. Now we can just talk normally, the way you don't talk, you would talk to a person and actually get what you mean. The that shift from rigid and robotic to natural conversation, that honestly been the biggest breakthrough I have seen in NLP in recent years.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned like large language models, especially since nowadays, like I know I talked to someone earlier and they were talking about how like they like Claude a lot because it when they talk to it and like ask it for like let's say like for Claude Code for help, they say it's like super easy to use and it's like basically a conversation that you would have with like a normal teacher or like a normal tutor. So I guess that kind of leads us into like the next question of like since AI, like I know some schools or like some institutions really like encourage the use of AI, but while others don't. So as AI becomes increasingly more integrated into education, I guess as someone who is an assistant professor who actually teaches future engineers, how do you think AI will change the way students learn over the next couple of years, or maybe the
Uh,
next decade?
um, yeah, sure, Sophie. This is something I think about a lot, honestly, because
Mm,
I see it happening in my classroom already. As
mm,
a teacher, I only get one classroom, one pace, and one way of explaining things. But
mm,
not every student learn from the same way, right? That's where AI comes in, especially for engineering students.
mm,
It can become a genuine study companion, helping with coding, debugging, prototyping, exploring ideas, giving a student the confidence to try the things they had have hesitate to attempt alone. I really
mm,
believe that next decade of education is heading towards more personalized, occupation-driven learning, right? Where classroom adapt to how a student think and what's they are actually building towards, not just a fixed syllabus everyone follows the same way. But I tell my student, I AI can change how you learn. It can't replace why you learn.
mm,
The curiosity, the critical thinking, the problem solving instinct that still has to come from you. So while I think classroom will become for more interactive, personalized, and tech integrated, creating a genuinely innovative learning environment. And I hope the core human curiosity is the one thing that never changes.
yeah. I think the way how you use it is really, so I know, like I read a paper on like a lot of university students learning how to program for the first time using like large language models, like using like I don't know, like probably like Claude Code or ChatGPT or something versus actually learning. And I think for programming specifically, it's actually like the memory retention and like the learning efforts used is like way lower, and like how much information they actually retained was way lower compared to like other subjects. So yeah, I definitely like the personalized aspect of that. So I guess kind of onto like a really similar question, since you mentioned that a lot of your students use like large language models. I feel like in my school too, like everyone's using it, even though it's like highly discouraged at my school. So I guess like where do you think AI can genuinely enhance learning? I know you mentioned like personalized learning. And where do you think students should be cautious? I know you kind of mentioned that students should still be like thinking really critically and trying to do like intensive like problem solving, but what are your thoughts on that?
Uh, yes, this is something I discuss with my own student very openly because it's such a relevant issue right now. Uh,
Mm,
it's a question, I say, black and white, while the picture is gray,
mm,
right? Everything has its own pros and cons. So here I think AI genuinely help. It's fantastic when student use it understanding something faster. Say a student is stuck in on a concept that can ask AI explain it in a simpler way, or give them a different examples, or even help them brainstorm ideas for a project. Used like that's it's like having a patience tutor available anytime you need it. It can also help with things like organizing your thoughts, checking your code for errors, or exploring a topic you are curious about but don't know where to start. Sorry. But here where I tell my student to be really careful that the moment you use AI to skip understanding instead of build in understanding, that's where the real learning gets lost. Like if you copy paste an answer for an assignment without actually doing through the reasoning yourself, you might submit the work, but you have not actually learned anything, and that catches up with your eventually in exam, in interviews, in real project. but there no AI to lean on, and you actually need to think on your feet, right? So my advice to the student is always this: use AI as a tool to think better and faster, not as a shortcut to avoid thinking along to altogether. If you can't explain a concept in your own words without opening the tool, that's usually a sign you need to slow down and actually learn it, not just complete it.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. I feel like AI is really good to help you learn, but it's not good to like
Yes.
replace your learning. Yeah. So I guess now going back to like what you do in your research. So you also published research using machine learning to help study like work-related factors associated with like suicide rates. So I guess what inspired you to apply AI to such, I feel like in my opinion, like especially nowadays, like such an important mental health challenge. And I guess like what role can data science play in improving mental health or public
Uh,
health in general?
Okay, I guess, this one is very honestly, this one is very close to my heart because it's not just a technical project. It touches something very real and very human. So the idea behind the research come from noticing how often work related stress gets overlooked as a serious factor. When we talk about mental health and society risk, we see people struggling with job pressure, burnout, financial struggle, long working hours, and a lot of time these patterns go unnoticed until it's too late. So I thought if we have all this data available, why not use machine learning to actually study these pattern properly, not to replace human understanding or compassions, but to support it, to help identify risk factors earlier, so the policymaker and public health professional can actually act on it. I also want to mention I didn't do this alone. I was mentoring a group of my students on this paper, guiding them through the research process, and honestly watching them engage with such a sensitive topic so thoughtfully and responsibly was really meaningful for me as a teacher. It was not just about publishing a paper, it was about teaching them the data science is not only about numbers and models. It's about using those numbers to actually protect and improve people's lives, and that's really what I believe data science do for public health. It's not there to replace doctor or counselors, right? But it can help us see patterns across a large population that would never be able to spot manually. It gives us to ability to act earlier, more informed and more compassionate.
Yeah. I think the impact is really like heartwarming, especially since like you're knowing like as you're writing this paper, like you and like doing all the processes, you guys like know that you guys are doing this for like a really good cause. I know like someone I talked to earlier was talking about how like nowadays a lot of people do research and do papers just to write the papers or like just to like produce something or like just create an idea where like the money will be funded. So I guess like I really like how you guys use like data science and like machine learning. I feel like a lot of the times when you guys like come up with like real statistical like numbers that it makes more of an impact rather than just saying like this happens and this happens. And I really like the idea of being able to discover factors like early on. I think that's very good for like targeting therapy, I feel. And also, yeah, I feel like it's great. So I really like that. So I guess more about you. You've also organized workshops on generative AI and modern DevOps practices. So I guess what skills do you think today's students should focus on if they really want to succeed, and especially like the rapidly changing AI industry?
Uh, First and foremost, I always tell my student, don't skip the fundamentals. Like, things like data structures, algorithm, and a good grip on mathematics that never
Mm,
go out of style. No matter how advanced the tools get, if your basics are weak, you are struggle to actually understand what happening under the hood and the limits how for you can grow. Beyond that, I think hands-on exposure is absolutely essential. That actually why I started organize these workshop in the first place, because reading about generative AI in a textbooks is very
mm,
difficult from actually building something with it. Same with DevOps, students need to understand how to not just write code, but actually deploy it, maintain it, monitor it, and
mm,
work in real development pipeline. The industry today doesn't just want someone who can code in isolation. That they want engineers who understand the full picture for development to deployment. And I would add one more thing. I think doesn't get talk about enough cybersecurity awareness. As system become more and more integrated into everything we do, understanding how to build and use them securely is not optional anymore. It's becoming a core skill, just like coding itself. Uh, but
mm,
honestly, if I had to sum it all up in one sentence, I would say the most important skill is adaptability. That tool you learn today, you might completely different from 2 years from now. So the real skill isn't on mastering one specific technology. It's building the ability to keep learning, keep experimenting, and stay curious when things change.
mm. Yeah. I really like how you mentioned cybersecurity. Um, I know like cybersecurity, like you also have a certificate, you've earned certifications in cybersecurity. And I know like there's this hackathon that I went to like a month ago where they're like, oh, since AI is becoming more like popular, like how, like I think the prompt was like, how do we develop a system where it's like it enforces cybersecurity in the ages of like now AI, since AI can do a lot, right? And there's probably a lot of people who are going to take advantage of that. So I guess this is kind of like, in your opinion, how important is cybersecurity in ensuring like all of these technologies remain safe and trustworthy?
Yeah, I think cybersecurity is one of those areas that doesn't get talked about enough when people
Mm,
discuss AI. Everyone excited about what AI can do, but not enough people asking. Are people are asking how do we make sure it's actually safe, and the gap is real concern because as AI system got integrated into things like healthcare, banking, education, even critical infrastructure, they become extremely high value targets. We are talking about risk like data breaches, model being manipulated with tricky inputs. To give wrong output or sensitive training data being exposed. They are not small theoretical risk anymore. They were very real. So for me, cybersecurity is not something separate from AI. It's foundational to it. You can build the I can say you can build the smartest, most powerful AI system in the world. But if it is not secure, it is not trustworthy, and honestly, it should not be deployed at scale. That's actually a big reason why I pursued cybersecurity certification myself, and why my research focus on combining cybersecurity with machine learning, because building intelligent system means very little if we can't also guarantee they safe for people using them. So my honest take it as AI keeps growing. Cybersecurity is not going to be an optional add-on anymore. It's going to be of the most in demand and important skill in the entire industry.
yeah. Yeah, definitely like protects the growth of AI. Yeah, I agree. So I guess finally, since we probably have a lot of high school students or maybe even college students listening who are interested in artificial intelligence, machine learning or computer science or this whole field. So what advice would you give to someone hoping to follow a similar path to yours, and where should they start, and what do you wish you had known when you were first getting started?
Um, so I wish someone had sat me down and told me this when I was just starting out.
Mm,
My first piece of advice would be start with curiosity, not pressure. A lot of students feel like they need to master everything at once. Uh, AI, machine learning, cybersecurity, all of it right from day one. But honestly, that's not how it worked, and that's not how it worked for me either. Start with the fundamentals, get really comfortable with programming, problem solving, and the basic math behind this field. The foundation is what everything else get built on. Once you have the base, let your curiosity guide you. This try small projects, break things, fix them, get your hand dirty. Don't wait until you feel ready enough to start building or exploring, because honestly that feeling of being fully ready rarely come. You learn by doing, by making mistakes, and by being okay with not knowing everything immediately. I will also tell them not be afraid of combining fields. Some of the most interesting and impactful work happen at the intersection of two areas. For my personally, that intersection has been AI and cybersecurity. So if something interests you, even if it feel unconventional, or like it does not fit a typical path follow if it anyway. um, and if I could go back and tell my younger self one thing, it would be this: you don't need to have your entire path figured out right now. I certainly didn't say consistent, stay curious, keep learning, and trust that the direction will become clear with time. That's genuinely how it happened for me, and I believe it can happen the same way for anyone listening today.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely like that response. Also, I really like how you mentioned like the intersection of many fields. I think that's really interesting since I feel like I know a lot of people, I've talked with a lot of people who are combining like psychology and like AI, since they know that like in their opinion, like developing AI and making it seem like more ethical and more safe is to make it like develop it to think as close as a human mind as possible. And like in order to do that, you must understand the human mind. So I really like that you do AI and cybersecurity, which I also think is a really, really interesting pair. So I guess that brings us to the end of today's episode of Mind Matter CogSci Talks. So Priya, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. It was wonderful hearing about your journey into artificial intelligence, your work in natural language processing and machine learning, and your perspective on how AI can be used responsibly to improve education, healthcare, and society. And I especially enjoyed learning how you balance research with teaching and how you're helping prepare the next generation of engineers for a rapidly evolving like AI technological world. And thank you to everyone to listening to Mind Matter CogSci Talks. And if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to never miss another one. And I guess until next time, stay curious, keep asking questions, and thanks for listening. So thank you.